Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be ranking every monster's abilities. This video was recommended by this person, so yes, I'm going to be ranking them by how good they are, how powerful they are. So yeah, let's just get right into it. Starting with Vapor's Spider Skull Summon, where Vapor will stop in place and summon a Spider Skull. The Spider Skull will then run to the nearest player and attack them. The player can spam E on the Spider Skull to destroy it, and if a player gets hit by the Spider Skull, then it will highlight them to Vapor. I'd say this is a pretty solid ability, 7 out of 10. Next is Vapor's Demonic Shift, where this orb will be placed on the map and will highlight all nearby players. When Vapor uses this, he will be teleported to the orb. And also, if a Spider Skull is currently chasing someone, if Vapor were to use Demonic Shift, then he would teleport where the Spider Skull is, which is really good to one-shot a player. I think this ability might even be better than his last one, 8 out of 10. Next is Rosemary's Demonic Shriek, where she will scream and will blind all nearby players, and it will also drain nearby players' stamina. This is not that bad of ability, I guess, 6 out of 10. Rosemary's second ability, Sightless Ascents, will simply just drain nearby players' stamina, so it's kinda just a worse version of her last ability, 5 out of 10. Next is Alon's Oni Vision, where he will simply just highlight all players on the map, which can be super useful, so this is a pretty good ability, 7 out of 10. His second ability, Shapeshift, will allow him to transform into any survivor he wants for a short amount of time. This is arguably one of the best abilities in the game. But a nice way to avoid this is to simply stay away from any survivor with the default animation pack, because when Oni is shapeshifted, he cannot capture players like other animation packs. So, no matter what, stay away from any player with the default animation pack when you're up against Oni. But this is a really good ability, 10 out of 10. Next is Fogborn's Thunder Warp, which is basically just kind of like a teleportation, where Fogborn will turn invisible and move extremely fast for a short amount of time, and he can become visible again at any time he wants. This is a really solid ability, and good for catching up with players. This is really good, 9 out of 10. His second ability, Foggy Stare, will make Fogborn stand still for a few seconds, and if any player looks at him while he uses this ability, then he will start crawling really fast, and it will highlight the player that looks at him. Fogborn will stay crawling extremely fast for a short period of time, and it's a really good way to kill nearby players. If Fogborn attacks any player that did not look at him, then the ability will end. This ability can be pretty tough to dodge, especially when Fogborn teleports in front of you and immediately uses this ability. But this is a great one, 10 out of 10. Next is EXE's Thorny Grave, where EXE will place a thorn trap on the map, and he can put up to infinite of these, which is pretty crazy. If a player steps into one of his traps, then they will be trapped and will have to spam E to get out of it. And when a player does step into a trap, they will be highlighted to EXE, and EXE will also get a major speed boost. So yeah, you pretty much always have to look where you're going, and this is really hard to dodge, especially on dark maps and Schoolhouse, because you cannot see them when they're behind a door. But this is a really good ability. I don't know how many times I've died to this. 10 out of 10. I also forgot to mention that when a player steps into a trap, their health will decrease extremely fast. EXE's second ability, Too Slow, will make him reach his arm out and run faster than usual. If EXE comes in contact with a player, then he will grab them and take a bite out of their head, making the player lose lots of health. The way to dodge this is just try to stay as far away as EXE in a chase as possible. But this is a very solid ability, 9 out of 10. Next is Baldi's Anti-Hearing Tape, where Baldi will place an anti-hearing tape on the ground, highlighting all players on the map, and also the players will not be able to hear Baldi's ruler slapping, which is basically his footsteps. As Baldi doesn't walk normally in the game like all monsters, he teleports like he does in his original video game. But yeah, this is not too bad of an ability, 7 out of 10. Baldi's second ability, Math, will allow him to place a notebook down on the ground, and if a player touches one of these notebooks, then they will have to solve a math problem, and they will also be highlighted to Baldi. If they do not answer the question in time, or if they get it wrong, then they will receive a bit of damage. This ability is also basically instant death for console players. If you've ever played on a console and have gone up against Baldi, then you know the pain. But yeah, this is a really nice ability. 9 out of 10. Next is Uncle Samsonite's Beat Laydown, where Uncle Samsonite will start waving his arms and run faster than usual. If Uncle Samsonite is close enough to a player when using this, then their dance bar will rise, and if their dance bar is filled all the way, then they will start dancing, which will stun the player for a couple of seconds. And this is a great way to let Uncle Samsonite get a hit or send you to his domain, which we will get into later. But this is a great ability, so how to dodge this? Just stay away as far as you can from Uncle Samsonite. But this is a really good ability. 8 out of 10. Uncle Samsonite's second ability, Uncle's Wrath, will make him stomp on the ground, preventing nearby players from running, and will also raise their dance bar a lot. Yeah, it's a great ability to use in Chase, and especially after using Beat Laydown. It's pretty solid, I guess. 7 out of 10. His third ability, Domain Traversal, is where Uncle Samsonite will wave his hand and then disappear, going into his domain where there are 4 doors, and Uncle Samsonite can go into any one of his choice, and it will teleport him to a random part of the map. Using this will also increase the timer in-game, and I gotta say, this is probably his best ability. 10 out of 10. His fourth ability is where he can hold E on a player, sending them to his domain. The player will slowly fall down from the ceiling, and like I said, there are 4 doors. The player will have to run around, hoping to find the correct door. This is a great way to kill survivors. This is a great ability. 10 out of 10. Next is Springtrap's Ventilation Error, where Springtrap will start glitching and will blind nearby players. So yeah, if you're going up against Springtrap, then you really need to know the map. How to dodge this? Just stay away from Springtrap as much as you can, which is not that hard because Springtrap is one of the slowest monsters in the game. But this is a really good ability, and it is so annoying to go up against, which I guess is a good thing for Springtrap. So yeah, 8 out of 10. Springtrap's second ability, Phantom Walk, will allow him to start flying faster than he normally walks, and if he comes in contact with a player, then they will become fearful and will become highlighted to Springtrap, and they will also get a little jump scare on their screen. But yeah, this is a really nice ability to use in Chase. It's pretty good. 7 out of 10. His third ability, Axe Toss, is exactly what it sounds like. Springtrap will throw his axe in the direction that he is facing, and if it comes in contact with a player, it will deal massive amounts of damage. So Springtrap could either go and pick up his axe again, or he could just not use it because he doesn't have to. Springtrap can still attack with his fists when he does not have his axe. I personally think this is a really cool ability and really cool new addition to Springtrap. 8 out of 10. His fourth ability, Mechanical Slam, is only accessible after throwing his axe. In this ability, Springtrap will grab the nearest player and slam them into the ground, once again dealing massive amounts of damage. This is a really good rebound to use, especially after using axe throw on them. Really solid ability. 8 out of 10. Next is MX's Charging Demise, where MX will put his arms up and start charging in a straight line. If a player gets hit by this, then they will be taken back and dealt lots of damage. Also, I don't know if this was a glitch in the server I was in, or if it's a part of MX's rework, but I've noticed that I can actually move around when I'm using Charging Demise, and if it's gonna stay like this, then this just makes this ability so much better. 10 out of 10. His second ability, Pow Hop, will allow him to jump into the air, where he is also allowed to move around in the air wherever he wants to go, and when this is used, a quick time event will appear on the survivor's screen if they're near him, and if they don't jump in time, then they will be stunned for a few seconds, allowing MX to run up on them and get a good hit. But yeah, this is also arguably one of the best abilities in the game. 10 out of 10. Next is Force King's Glitching Blitz, where he will stand still and shoot out this glitchy projectile in the direction that he is facing, and if a player gets hit by it, then they will slowly receive damage. So yeah, it's a really good ability to use in Chase. It's pretty solid, 7 out of 10. His second ability, Lurking Facade, is where he will summon this weird face-like thing, and it will go to the nearest player, similar to Vapor's Spider Skull. Unlike Vapor's Spider Skull, they are much slower, like much slower. If a player comes in contact with one of these floating faces, then this glitchy, like, tree will appear, and the player will be stuck to it for a few seconds. But yeah, it's pretty solid, 8 out of 10. Next is Weird Yellow Smiling Thing's Gobble Bomb, where he will stand still and spit out this Gobble Bomb, and it will bounce around the map or whatever, and after a few seconds, it will eventually explode, and if it hits a player, then it will explode immediately, dealing lots of damage to the player. It's a pretty nice way to get XP and kills. This is a really good ability, 8 out of 10. His second ability, Frenzy, is where he will stand still for a few seconds, and then all of the players on the map will be highlighted. He will become faster, and when he is in Frenzy, he can actually spit out 3 Gobble Bombs at a time. This will be a better ability if it wasn't so friggin' loud. I can hear it on the other side of the map. But yeah, besides that, this is an amazing ability. 10 out of 10. Next is Niloticus's Godly Leap, where Niloticus will dive in a straight line, and if he comes in contact with a player, then he will grab them and take a bite out of their head, similar to EXE's Too Slow, dealing massive damage to the player. This is a really good ability to use in Chase. It's a really nice ability overall, 8 out of 10. His second ability, Irradiated Mist, is where Niloticus will stand still and pretty much throw up this radiation. If a player steps into the radiation, then they will be highlighted to Niloticus, and they will also slowly lose health. This is a great ability to trap players with, and it's a great ability overall, 10 out of 10. Next is Mimic's Elder Ascension, where he will become practically invisible and will move faster than usual for a certain amount of time. If the Mimic hits someone while he's ascended, then he will become visible again, and I believe when he hits someone when he's ascended, then the player will start bleeding and will slowly lose health. Really solid ability, probably his better one, 8 out of 10. His second ability, Animalistic Instinct, is where Mimic will sniff the air and will highlight nearby players. It's a pretty basic ability, but it's good, I guess, 7 out of 10. Next is Fuwadi's Oni Vision, and it's basically just the same as our Oni's, except when Fuwadi is using this, he cannot attack players, which kinda makes this ability worse than our Oni's, 6 out of 10. His second ability, Silly Rush, is where Fuwadi will pretty much just run in a straight line, similar to MX's Charging Demise, but unlike that ability, if Fuwadi comes in contact with a player, he will put them into an instant bone break, which is a really good ability. Only thing is that it is really hard to dodge because unlike MX is this huge monster and has this really big hitbox when Fuwadi's just like the smallest monster in the game, so it's pretty easily avoidable, so it's not as good as MX's, 8 out of 10. Next is Inkfell's Devil's Portal, where Inkfell will spit out this pool of ink, similar to Niloticus's radiation, but unlike Niloticus, Inkfell can actually travel through the ink and can put up to 6 ink portals on the map. If a player steps into one of these ink puddles, then they will become slower and will become highlighted to Inkfell. Also, once Inkfell comes out of one of the portals, if a player's near, then they will receive some damage and will also become inked, which is where they become slower and become highlighted to Inkfell, like I just said. Anyways, this is a really good ability, really good for trapping, and really annoying to go up against, 10 out of 10. His second ability, Devil's Rage, is where Inkfell will slam his hands onto the ground, dealing massive amounts of damage to players nearby. This ability will also destroy all ink portals on the map. Before the nerf, this ability was basically OP and was pretty much not dodgeable on Fazbear's Frights. But yeah, this is still a decent ability, 8 out of 10. His third ability, Devil's Dive, is pretty much what it sounds like. Inkfell will dive into a straight line for a few seconds, and if he comes in contact with a player, then they will become inked. Before the rework, this ability was pretty bad, to be honest, but after the rework, it's actually not that bad now. 7 out of 10. Next is PCX's Found You, where PCX will become invisible, and it's basically like a teleportation, similar to Fogborn's Thunder Warp. But unlike Fogborn, EXE can actually float up and down, which is very useful on Oni's mansion. Once PCX gets out of this when he's near a player, then he will jump scare them, stun them, and deal a bit of damage to them. But yeah, this is a great ability, and it's so annoying to go up against. I don't know how many times I've died to it. 9 out of 10. His second ability, Final Act, is where PCX will start flying really fast, and if he comes into contact with a player while this is being used, then he will send them to, well, his final act. Before the rework, this ability was actually much better because there was nowhere for the player to hide, and they would basically have to run and pray that they don't die. But with the rework, with all of the obstacles, it's pretty easy for the player to just hide behind one, and PCX will just go right past them and go to the ring. So yeah, this ability is not as good as it used to be in my opinion. 7 out of 10. His third ability, Jump, is exactly what it sounds like. PCX will simply jump like Sonic does in his video games. And while this is being used, PCX will receive a bit more stamina. So yeah, it's pretty simple, but not that bad of an ability. 8 out of 10. Whew, that was a long video. This took a long time to make, so I appreciate it if you like and subscribe if you haven't already. And also, thank you for watching till the end of the video. Remember that you are important to someone, and that you're a great person. See you in the next video.